Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you here today to the Jackson County Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, March 28th of 2023. So we're about the end of March. So we got to the most of the spring. With me here today, I have Don Schwenker and Lynn Spiegel and myself, Mike Steinitz, are your county supervisors. I have Lisa and Bjorn from the auditor's office here assisting today. And Luann, our executive assistants in the background. Mary not here today. No media. And we have a nice group here today that will introduce themselves as they come. So first on our agenda today is Mr. Todd Keeney, our Jackson County engineer. Morning, Todd.
Morning. So first on the agenda is approve a Class D residential permit for Bellevue Sand and Gravel off of 395th Avenue. Site distance checks out fine, everything looks fine, so we'll just recommend approval.
Did you say residential
Residential,
on 395th?
Yep.
So that would be up golf course area?
lot 1.
That's the golf course.
Well, it's off to the, there's the lot it's going into. It's off to the east towards the river.
Yeah.
Approved.
Motion and second to approve the residential permit request for Bellevue Sand and Gravel as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the dust control policy that you guys approved by resolution each year, looks like. No,
Did you give it to anybody?
I'm assuming Stacy did, but we don't have to approve it today, but it's for the dust control season, May 1st to September 30th. We can just talk about it. It's not on the agenda for.
If not, we'd have to give it to Shelley quick, like to put it on to give it a number and to put it on resolution.
Yeah, it is
Like
one.
that, discuss the possible motion for dust control policy resolution on the agenda, so.
There's no, I guess,
As long as
time frame issue. We're receiving permits now, but really what this does, there's only one change to it, and it's the notice period. Before it was 48 hours, and we changed that to 1 week. So they have to give us, prior to the application, the county will need a notice of 1 week before application. So it's a week for us to get the road ready, before it gets dust control, instead of 48 hours.
That would make sense.
And are we notifying the people that we're going to be doing the upgrading to the road on?
that we're
That
retreating.
like they might be getting the crowning done this year.
Oh,
Are they-
that part of it. So we did discuss this. So what ideally, when we shape the road prior to getting the dust control, that's when we would try and, put enough rock on it, crown it where you're 300 or 400 feet of where they're gonna put dust control. So that if their road is on one of the 10 miles per district, we would be skipping the dust control spot. So that's the plan to do that. So they can still get their permit to do dust control, but we go out and shape that road. We're trying to get crown put in it because we're gonna skip that section when we actually do the 10 miles. Because otherwise, if we do that 10 mile, that section through there, I mean, we're gonna have to replace their dust control. I don't wanna be doing that.
So would that make sense to skip a portion and not have it reconstructed?
So we're not gonna, let's say we're gonna skip it. We're gonna try and get that section of road that's getting dust controlled crowned the best we can with rock and shaping when we get it ready for the dust control. So those sections are gonna get done ahead of time. And then when we actually come in with the trigger, we're not gonna be touching those dust control spots.
So my understanding, when we rebuild these, we're putting a base, a macadam base under them.
No, okay. We're taking from the shoulder,
Retrieving.
bringing that mixture of rock, lime and dirt onto the road, compacting it, and then placing 1 inch clean and then road rock, not macadam.
So do we basically kind of know how many dust controls, where these permits are going forward from kind of according to last year, that we would try to treat that or do that first?
Yeah, so like I said, when we get the dust control permits in, we'll give a list of those, which we'll have, which we have from each previous years. And those will go to the grader operators and they'll haul rock and shape those. Again, as best we can. A lot of them, or I shouldn't say a lot of them. Sometimes people have their ditch filled in and the side of the road is higher than the road. The ditch is higher than the road, so you're in a kind of a and not a good situation to begin with. So in those instances, we're just kind of build up the middle third of the road, so the water drains from the middle of the road to the edge of the road. And then in some spots, it's gonna have to drain down the edge of the road till it gets into the ditch because people have their ditch filled in.
So would you like to get this on resolution paper or would you like to table?
I don't, whatever you guys wanna do. If it can't be done today, then we just need to put it on resolution paper and put it on for next week.
Does Shelley have time, do you think, or how do you feel?
So do you have that in an email that you can forward to her?
Oh, yeah.
So we have to give it a number.
Why don't we just table it and
Table
get
it
for
till
time?
next week.
Okay.
That a motion?
Most of the
Yeah.
table until next week.
I have a motion and a second to table the dust control policy resolution till next week. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Then there's two right-of-way, utility working right-of-way permits. Coconut, Valley Electric. They're gonna redo some overhead, power lines to upgrade to larger wire. So it's gonna be the same alignment. There's gonna probably increase or decrease the pole spacing, increase the number of poles because of the heavier wire, but I mean, it's the same route and everything, so I would recommend approval of that.
Oh my God. motion.
One second.
Did you include both or just Macocota Valley?
It's the one.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to approve the Macocota Valley, rebuild line utility permit for Butler Township, sections 10, 15, 16, 21 Bernard Road. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Okay, and the next one's for Cascade Communications. Along the Bellevue Cascade Road, they're doing, it's all boring, they're moving an existing handhold for fiber and then putting in a new handhold, it's approximately 200 foot. At the toe and back slope, so seems fine, I would recommend approval of that as well.
Make that motion, let's go for, go get Cascade.
Second.
Motion and second to approve Cascade Communications permit as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Jeez here, so the next item I would ask or request that your HR extraordinaire come up here. She was joined by extraordinary director.
Let's see that in the job description.
So Todd has on the agenda today, we do have an employee in our secondary roads department who is on work comp right now. He is not on our payroll. He's being paid by our loss control carrier, IMWCA. Due to that, he is not having his insurance deductions from his paycheck because he's not on payroll. Back in 2017, we had a secondary roads employee who was covered by a union contract that provided for the county to pay the premiums, not the employee. This current employee is not union, and that language that was valid back then is no longer valid. Well, this employee has come to us and said, I would like the county to cover my share of premiums as well, instead of them contributing either via check to us to reimburse us or payroll deduction to catch up when they come back. So of course, Todd and I kind of talked about it, and I said he could certainly bring it to the board's attention today. But it is just a larger conversation, in my opinion, that needs to be had. We have always required the employees to pay their share of the insurance premiums, whether they're on, sick, vacation, whatever it is. If they run out of time to be paid, they still have to make up those contributions. So Todd and I just talked about it, and my recommendation would just be a schedule. I have some other things I need to talk to the board about here coming up, that just maybe set up some time for a work session, just to kind of discuss that more in depth. But we're just kind of here today to bring the conversation to the table. The employee is off right now. And I just recommended to Todd that employee just wait until we can resolve it or catch up the premium like everybody else does, depending on the board's.
Well, yeah, I mean, we certainly have to go over, see what the ramifications will be for us or what it could entail. If it's not in policy now, I think it has to be before we just decide.
Yeah, policy right now is they pay their share of the premiums. But like I said, we did have in 2017, there was different circumstances, there was a collective bargaining agreement that came into play then, that doesn't now, So of course, they just brought it and said, hey,
So that's
that
not
happened to them,
negotiable.
can it happen to me? So it's just basically up for discussion. So I personally would recommend you just table it unless Todd has any further input, and that we have a work session just to determine if we want to change policy moving forward.
That's what I think the county has paid it. We're requesting the employee reimburse the county, so there's no time constraint. So I'm good with just tabling till you guys have a broader discussion about it. And then, whatever you guys decide.
So it could be a case you could set them pay schedule back to when he goes back to work and take it out of his paycheck then or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of expect like part-time limited duty now,
Yeah.
so.
So this would have been a 1 month lag from.
So, yeah, I'm fine with tabling it, and you guys have a bigger discussion.
I'll make a motion, we table it, and schedule it for a work session in the next week or two.
We'll second that.
A motion and a second to table the action on employee health benefit contribution. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay.
Okay, so their work sessions, are they like on Tuesdays?
Most of the time work sessions are on Tuesday, let you schedule them for.
So it'd be Tuesdays after your normal. board,
Yeah.
Right, okay. So will that be next week then?
If Becky is
And
prepared,
if you guys have time, I have some other things that I was gonna ask you, I have a slot this in for afterwards, if you guys have time after next week, Tuesday.
why don't you guys go here back and forth and then if you want it on the schedule, then.
Cool. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then last real quick on, rock haul. This is just this claims period. $124,000 in rock haul. 45,000 of that was either 1-inch clean, 2-inch clean, or special backfill. So about 36% of it was not just regular road rock. It's over a third of it. So just, I know we get questions. You guys probably get questions about that. Yeah.
Not called pig slap.
Whatever.
But yeah, I've looked at that and I seen the different descriptions actually in the claims. They describe it as, a special backfill or 1 to 2 or 2 to clean and.
Well, when it's clean, that means it's sieved. So
Yeah, well, it's 2-inch clean on there too, is that?
yeah, that we don't haul as much of that because I mean, 2-inch clean, the bigger stone, especially in the summertime, that sometimes will have a tendency to work its way to the surface, and you're going to get, you hit a few 2-inch rocks, you'll know it. But we don't haul as much of that. It's the 1-inch clean product that we try and haul. The special backfill, and there's one other one. There's got different names
I've
for it,
heard
but it's
the
just
term.
another product that's a little bit bigger with less fines.
I've heard the term farmer's rock once or twice, but I don't know what that is.
That's just bigger. I think that's 1.25 inches, I think, or 1.5 inches top size, I think. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Well, there's a lot of rock going out there. We can see that. I mean, you can see it on the roads too if you travel. But hopefully that we can catch up there. I had a comment yesterday that they're pretty good now. And I said, well, and the other comment was that they just keep working them, keep grading them, just keep them.
Get the water off here. That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
Keep the bumps out of them.
Okay.
Sure,
Well,
appreciate it.
the snow.
Yeah.
Well, at least you got a plan.
Any?
Yeah.
Updates on our grader? Just because that's my district.
That's, you asked for that earlier. And it would be $150 a month would be the monthly charge. Macoka grader, yes, we made an offer. That individual is on the driving. Oh, Becky left. She takes care of, but she emails me when she gets confirmation. Driving record checker was fine. The pre-employment physical was fine. I think the pre-employment drug and alcohol testing, we still need to get that yet, but everything else is checked out fine. So when that's all checked out, then we'll bring it to the board for your motion to hire. So, but so far so good.
How's our compactor trailers doing?
He's. When did you say you were issuing the check?
It's on the claims.
Claims today, so I'm assuming he's gonna wait till he gets paid and then deliver. So, but he said once they have them in stock, so we'll take delivery as soon as he can get them here. Because, you know, as the weather starts to change here,
Road's kind of getting close.
yeah, we're getting closer and closer. I know we got quite a bit of rain scheduled here, or forecasted, I should say, but we're getting into April here, and we're gonna be starting to kind of put things together and do some staging and kind of get things ready to go when we're ready to go, so.
Cool, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Todd. Marv is actually on. Todd, you want to stay for this or no?
308.
Oh, yeah. Well, I get
Well, I got Marv on my schedule, so you're gonna have to step back there and that Marv.
He identifies as part of it.
Yeah. All right. I guess you can fire away and you're here for,
I'm here on behalf of 308 Street Hard Surfacing Committee. I'm Terry Beek. I live in the Deerfield Edition outside of Bellevue. I'm here to present a petition for a 50-50 cost share based on Chapter 311 Secondary Road Assessment District for paving 308 from Highway 52 to as close to the culvert over Spruce Creek as we can. That's approximately, working with Todd, 0.28 miles. We're asking that be asphalt. We have 21 people in the district. These are people that live there full time. These are not vacation houses. We've received over 75% of our 21 people have signed our petition. Since you're already planning on doing the crowning on that section of 308, we ask that you consider doing this year in conjunction with that crowning, or instead of that crowning, to save you guys time and money, both of them. We also ask that the county consider there is a culvert. The reason we're stopping there is there's a culvert or Spruce Creek that would need to be replaced. We ask that the county take that on, not the citizen. And that's why we're stopping there. But there's people beyond that that would love to have something done. Some of the history is this was seal coated, as I understand, for about 3/4 of a mile at one time. And then that got ripped out by the county because it just didn't last. That's all. If this gets approved, when would a public hearing be next? And I think Ted has to do the next step.
Yeah, so, do I need to come up there?
yeah, we can hear better. You want to sit right next to him, if that works.
No, you're okay. Thank you.
So I guess my question would be, first of all, a cost.
215,000 is what you estimated up to that point.
Well, that was the option for macadam and then 3-inch overlay. Is that the one?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't bring in we had multiple options.
Sure, and was that also the recommendation that it be graded and set for a year? Did I hear you say that one?
Yeah, so if we're gonna do macadam paving, let's say macadam paving, so what we typically would do is we would put in 8 inches of macadam stone base, compact it, and then put 4 inches of like choke stone, regular class A road rocks, and then compact it. And then you could do one of two things. You can dust control it and then let it set for a year and then pave it the next year, or you could seal coat it right away. But technically you wouldn't have to seal coat it. I mean, you could spray a prime coat on top of the rock and then pave it on top of it. So it'd save a little bit of money. You wouldn't necessarily need to seal coat it and then put asphalt on top of it. In years past, when we did this a long time ago, we would seal coat it, but it would sit for 3, 4, 5 years. And then we would asphalt it. But in recent, when we did the urban renewal bond in Clinton County, it was rock, and then we did a sprayed like prime coat, basically a heavy tack on it, and then we paved on it right away. So, you could probably, we could probably reduce that and just dust control it and then let it settle a year. I still recommend letting it settle. And then fixing any spots where you have, deformation or something like that. And then the following year, let a contractor pave it, because we'll have to let a contract, because it'll be, if anything more than 2 inches, it's not considered maintenance paving. So we would have to, let a contractor put it on the 5-year program.
What would be the total of this, 6 inches,
3.
3 inches?
So you put 3 inches on top of 12 inches of rock base. And if it's predominantly residential traffic, that's a section that you should get good performance out of.
There is farmers down the road, and that's my concern with their equipment. And that's the only road, it's a dead end, so it's the only way in and out for them. Is 3 inches gonna hold up?
Well, I mean, we could put more, it's just gonna add.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I think I would propose that maybe if we take out the seal coat cost, and I shouldn't say take it out, use the cost that we put in there for the seal coating. Deduct the amount it's gonna cost to dust control it, which I still think we'd wanna dust control it when we let it sit. And then the remaining funds, use that to, maybe we could do 3.5, 4 inches. Just keep the dollar amount of the project, the estimated cost the same, and then put whatever we don't use in seal coat towards HMA servers.
What was that total cost again?
215.
Estimate.
Right.
So, I
How's
guess
this
my,
fit into your budget, if I can ask?
It's not. So that was the other thing, is that, if you wanna do this work, you'll have to have a public hearing. I have to do a report. That the report describes the project, gives the cost estimate, because the assessment is based on the estimate, not the actual cost. So then I have to, in the report, I have to lay out how each property within the secondary road assessment district is assessed. And then the assessment, that the report has to provide the boundary of the assessment district. So you got a secondary road assessment district, and those properties within that district get assessed. And I think, how many lots you got there?
There's 21 or 20. There's discrepancy. There's either 23 or 21. Because some people took their lots and combined them, and we're kind
But
of trying
so
to.
how many owners? 21 owners.
21 owners.
So we would assess, and that, again, that would depend on if the lots, and we talked about this, if I own 3 lots and my house sits in the middle of the 3 and the other lots on either side of me are not buildable because of the setback, then you need to decide whether that person is being assessed based on the lots they own, or just one house, or frontage. There's a lot of options, and all those things need to be figured out. That gets laid out in the report, so.
so I guess my thought is, this subdivision is on a side street, so they got assessed for that, chip sealing last 2-3 years ago.
They did a.
So did they pay for per lot, or did they pay per owner?
You remember?
You talking just the subdivision? Mike,
Yes,
or
yeah,
threatening?
no, I'm talking the subdivision.
I wasn't involved in that. one.
Yes, so you guys redid that road here a couple years ago. How
Yeah.
did they assess it to owners then? Did they go per lot or per owner?
We went per lot.
Per lot, so they doubled up. If they had 2 lots, they doubled up on their payment.
Right.
You're also considering both sides of the road here, correct? The little
Yeah.
subdivision as you go in, and yours, Mike, and.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my thoughts are, or I would like Todd's thoughts on the whole thing. It sounds to me like whatever we do, we would be setting a precedence. I know the area, I don't know what Ben and Don do. I would like to give them a chance to either view the place or, look at it. See what their thoughts are, get their
So
input.
is this 308 to the right of 52?
Left.
Which,
Left.
to the west.
To the west.
West,
to the west.
okay.
And it's
308 to the right.
pretty much a dead end road. It's, I think it's the second highest traveled road in the county that's not paved. Is
It's
that
in the
correct?
top 3 or 4, I think, yeah. we
Yeah.
talked about- I don't know
Because
for
it's a
sure.
dead end, everybody that goes in has to come out that way.
Well, it's not really a dead end, but it's a
It's
level
an-
B, so it also goes to the Fritz Chapel, if anybody's familiar with the chapel.
So your petition, you said you got out of the 21 lots or 23, however you look at it, you said you got 75% of the signatures. Yep. The other 25, you just didn't get a hold of them or were unable to, or were they absolutely not participating?
2 were against and the other 3, 1 lives out of the area. And the other 2 we did not reach.
Okay. So what do we do? When we set up a special assessment district, is there a certain threshold that we have to?
50%. 50%.
50%,
So
so
do
if
they
they
get
say no,
assessed
absolutely
in it?
not, they still get it?
They get assessed, as I understand it.
Yeah, so you'll have to, there's a process. Like I said, you'll have to have a hearing. Those people that are against it will have the right to come in and, you know, claim their demonstrants for not wanting it, that kind of thing. It'll be up to the board whether you establish the district or not. You're not required to establish the district. You know, if you get 75% or more majority of people want to do it, it's up to the board. If you establish the district, then the project moves forward, basically what happens.
So as far as basically, if we proceed with the way I'm assuming you're recommending, it would become a macadam road this year?
Well,
Or
That's what we would like.
that's what they're like.
And Todd's for it too. We talk for you.
I would say, not that, I'm not saying it couldn't be done, but with all the other stuff. The 100 miles, we're gonna try and get done. I realize obviously we would skip this, or we would select another road to
chunk of
do.
road, yeah.
But still doesn't leave the fact that we got 100 miles to do. The cost of doing this is based on us doing, you know, we got a macadam laydown machine, you push it with a bulldozer, Clinton County has it, Jackson County would use it. The cost is based on us doing this, it's not being let to a contractor, so obviously there's some savings there, but to get it all done this year is, I could sit here and tell you we could do it, but I would not be very confident in that, just because the amount of work we need to get done on the other 100 miles.
That amount of work is gonna be for, I'm assuming, the next 4 or 5 years as we try to get all the roads around. My concern with this is, I'm assuming that number doesn't include the culvert that may or may not need to be replaced.
Correct.
And that would be a question I have back to you is, do we need to redo that culvert? Is this one of those times where, okay, if we're gonna do this, we just need to do it because it's getting older, it's gonna need replaced soon. We don't wanna have to tear a road up to do it.
That's the point, is that there's service life left in the culvert. It's not like the culvert is in.
But if you're gonna put a brand new road on.
We're
top
not
of
going to.
It,
That's why
it
we're
stops
stopping.
before.
Yeah, so I think the plan would be, I think what they're trying to do is wait the county out. So when the culvert gets replaced in the counties, it's the county's responsibility. The reason why we were adding that cost onto the project is it would make sense. Say it's got, I don't know, 15 years of service life left, and this improvement we're gonna make is gonna last 30 years. You wouldn't wanna have to, you know, dig a 30-foot wide hole in the middle of a new improved road. So we were accelerating the replacement. So, I mean, we had talked about, you know, if they were gonna go past the culvert, maybe we would prorate that. So, you know, if the culvert has a 60-year life and there's 15 years left on it, then they would pay 25% of the replacement cost, because that's the value of the pipe we're taking out, that we still could have had value or service life left, you know what I mean? So, but that's not, they're stopping short of it, so it's not really an issue for that part of it.
And for us, there's 21 people that this will service. There's only 7 more for the next half mile. And so when we started looking at the economics, you know, 7 people for a half mile more didn't make economic sense to us if we had to put this culvert in too.
So, long story short, we would need to amend the budget to put the money in there to buy and place the rock. Okay, that's all we would be doing this year. Okay, and then if the board establishes, this is all assuming the board establishes the district, then when we look at the 5-year program for fiscal year 25, that's when we would have to program the paving of the road. And that's when we would have to fund that part of it. And then the auditor and the treasurer's office will need to get involved, because is it over $500?
Yes, anything over
500, they get up to 10 years to pay it back, and then that would all have to be tracked and handled through the treasurer's office.
So the options for the petition says that they're asking for 50%. So our options could come back and say, yeah, we'll do it if you pay 75%. Is that an option?
I think there's probably room for negotiation there. Yeah, I think the minimum is 50%.
Okay,
Yeah, so the minimum allowed to establish the secondary road assessment district is 50%. It's chapter 311 of the code. if you
I mean, I
guys-
know the area and I understand the concept and I get what you're saying. But we're setting a policy or precedence here when we do something like this for somebody else to come in and do the same thing. So where do we stand with it, you know? I mean, High Bridge comes in and wants it done there where there's 4 miles, you know, they got, if they're gonna do 60% or 70, 50, 60, 70%, they got a couple $1,000,000 stacking out.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's probably a good way to look at it is, if you get multiple or subsequent petitions to establish a secondary road assessment district, I would assume you would want to try and treat everybody the same or fairly, this equally, So if you're gonna approve one at 50, I would assume, you're setting yourself up to approve future ones at 50 as well, but.
Right.
Well, you also gotta look at the fact that I appreciate that you guys wanna stop at the culverts, like you say, it's not economically feasible, but then again. If we at some point in time need to do the rest of it, you're talking higher mobility costs and things like that, it's almost. Would it make sense to be a one and done kind of thing, just because? Versus chunking it little bits here and there, I don't want to spot pave throughout the county just because. It makes more feasibility for road maintenance, that's not as feasible,
Well-
Your road maintenance is there like
Yeah.
at least every week. This is just full of potholes.
Wheeler?
All
Which
the
is
time.
arguing more towards treating the whole thing versus just.
Just this section, I mean, where they had the seal coat before and they ripped it out, they didn't rip all of it out, so it's still. You come see it.
I'll be there.
The thing
Wait
with
on the
that
rains though.
is that
But what I'm looking at, if we, if we get our roads into the shape. You might not have the issues that you're having right now. If we get them. Or even if we just do the macadam stone part for that section and not. Go ahead with the
So-
paving.
We still would deal with the dust. Issue and with
yes.
the trucks
You
and
live
with
on a
the,
gravel road, you're
yeah,
gonna
and
deal
with,
with dust issues.
I would say this though, if the county is looking at improving or stabilizing the higher AET gravel roads, this would be one of the projects or one of the sections you would look at doing. I get what you're saying now about getting some economy of scale. If you're gonna pave, let's see what makes sense to pave. Is it 0.28 miles or it's a 0.6 or whatever the number, but the thing is that you're dealing with a petition to establish a secondary assessment district. The board really can't expand that and say, you guys are gonna be put in the district too. So if we wanna do beyond this, then the county's probably gonna be paying all of that because.
If, let's say we, okay, we're gonna agree to do this. Would you macadam the whole road or
No.
would you stop
No,
there?
I would stop wherever the secondary road assessment district stops. Because, the macadam is a little bit easier to dig up and reuse, but I still wouldn't wanna have to. Macadaming over the culvert and then come back and replacing it. It's not the most efficient way to do that, but I would, again, the improvements we make would be. The scope of those would be dictated by where the assessment district is being.
I would like to see, I guess, put together the final cost, whether you want it, what it all entails and the steps we need to look at to proceed.
So I don't know if you can tell there, Don, he got it up there, so that's Highway 52. And he's gonna follow 308 to the west. To that creek right there.
Yep, just past that driveway.
So you catch Perrins, right? And you catch the subdivision that's to the north, and then there's also a subdivision.
Yeah, we'd be stopping, so between there's two driveways and where the creek crossing is. Somewhere in there to the east of that, we'd be stopping,
probably about here.
yeah.
And then if you take 308 across, that's paved over to 395th.
To the golf course. Yeah.
Right. And that's, did you talk to that landowner, by the way, or about the sign and the right of way? That's what was on the end of 308 there.
Yeah. So you think about the use of the functionality of the section of road, it's not a dead end going west, but it turns to a level B, so the predominant traffic movement is eastbound. So paving it west serves an additional 7 residences.
7 people, yeah.
So, it's not like if we continue to pave it, we're getting connectivity with something else, like we're connecting with a higher volume road or another road. We're just servicing 7 more people, so this is really a collector road that feeds into 52. That most of the traffic is going eastbound, so to only pave, say, 3/10 of a mile may not seem like a lot of sense, but really you're talking about a one direction of traffic flow towards the other paved road, so.
And I don't know when you did your traffic count, but recently some side by sides are so prevalent. That road's used all the time because it's how you get to offshore. So
Let me see what you got. So we got, oh, geez. Fancy paper, all right.
So I guess that was before our time and you wouldn't know, Todd. So 308 from 52 go east there if you can, Bjorn. That was paved, do you know when, Mike?
Oh, I would guess, Mike, maybe 12 years ago.
Okay, so I don't know.
There was no cost share on that.
Yeah, and I don't know how that come about. I guess it's because if the golf course is up there.
Yes.
You're petitioning to establish the secondary road assessment district, right? I would do it like that. Establish secondary road assessment district, then. That's what you're petitioning for, so that starts the process, so you've received this petition now, it starts the process of how we need to handle that request.
And did somebody do the math on that? 215 at 50% to 21?
215, half of 215,
107
107.5.
divided by 21. Divided by 10 years, or what is it? Did you say 10
it
years?
comes right around $500 a year,
Okay, that's
plus
what
or
I-
minus $25.
Sure. Which,
Depends on if you do 21 or
And
23.
dust control rental costs them about 600. Mike, you get it.
Oh, we put just about $1,000 down for 600 feet of dust control right off of 52 last year. That was 2 applications, but
Sounds like we could up the cost of it.
No.
Let's do that.
They call the road grader gas for you too.
Now it's gonna be dump truck gas. Then we got a line painted, we got salt and sand, no,
and I agree with the cost for rock and when, we discussed the cost for rock.
Stuff like that too.
yes, I'll make a copy, you guys will get filed.
The time and labor that we have people working on.
16. All right,
So I guess that is on our agenda and I don't know that there's any action on it. Where's my information here?
I think there are more questions and things in the percentage of.
Well, we guess we need,
Timelines and.
we need-
Proceed with work.
we need to have a chance to take a look at it, so we can just table it until further information.
Make a motion that we table this until we get a chance to get up there and look at it.
And I'll second that, but this way we can also figure out the timeline, what we need to do to establish the district and make sure.
yeah, you're just receiving petition, you're not gonna take any action, so.
So, do we need also a motion to accept the petition? Is that part of it? Or is this presented to us and we kind of, okay,
It's so received.
so I do have a motion to table it.
Yep. And I second it.
Motion and second to table, action on the 308th Street petition. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye, opposed nay. I should have asked any further comments.
When you come, let us know. We'd be glad to show you.
Motion
what we're
carried.
looking at. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Are there any other visitors or citizens here that would like to approach the board? is Tony in the hall, Joe?
Thank you.
Yeah. Got your phone? Got her phone.
Oh, that was better.
Yeah. Good morning. So next on our agenda, we have Tony Shingles, our Jackson County Veterans Affairs Department update. Good morning, Tony.
How are you guys?
Not bad.
Good.
Set up there.
And yeah, you can come up there. I'm sorry, who do you have with you today?
Brianna Kirk, she's the administrative assistant.
Just for the public to, they can see you.
Smile.
I wanted to talk a little bit first about our budget. I know it was changed from what was proposed. If you look at my letter, I'm requesting that we could maybe move some funds from the veterans from part of my budget into salary for the commissioner, for the director and the assistant director. And where I'd like to take it from is general services to veterans. In the last 3 years, we budgeted $6,400 a year for burials for indigent veterans. We buried one. So there's always been a little bit of a surplus there, and I know there's been times where, and rightfully so, at the end of the year, Veterans Affairs has returned money to the county because we don't always use a lot of the general services to veterans, because it's more for families that are in distress. So what I would like to see done is we transfer $2,600 from the general what is it called, the general services to veterans from the burial fund, and use that to up the salary for whoever will be the future director and or administrator and the assistant director. And I know it's not a huge amount of money, but it does bring that salary for the director up to over $50,000 a year, which I think is a more livable salary. And it doesn't change the percentage our budget is increasing. And I know our budget's increasing about 10% now anyway, but that's because we're bringing on more hours from the administrative assistant. It isn't so much in salary. And we're still, even at that rate, if we put $1,600 to the director's salary and another $1,000 towards the assistant director's salary, the director would still be making $1 an hour less than the state average for the director's position for a full-time director. So we're not asking for the world. I just, as you know, I'm leaving. I'd really like to make sure that that's an attractive position. That we can get somebody in here who will continue to do the kind of work that this office is doing, and in a positive way, and have, be able to maybe even raise a family with, the wages that they're making in that office. Right now, I think, that it's the lowest paid office. I bring up a lot of things in there, but we've done some great things. If you look at our numbers, and I gave it to you in that packet. So last month, Jackson County got in direct compensation to veterans, $644,695. If you look at a year ago, that was $523,000. And I know we're filing a lot of claims. We're bringing a lot of funds back into the county. Remember, that doesn't include the healthcare. Healthcare is usually double that. So when we do get our yearly report, I'm expecting last year to have been a huge increase over the $12 million we brought in the year before. And we're out doing things. We've had coffee and donuts several times in different places, and we're getting veterans in the door. We've been to a PACT Act clinic at the Dubuque recently. We're up at district. We just had district training. It's an active office. It's not like we're just sitting there doing nothing, and it shows in the numbers we're bringing back in. And if you look at the work that they're doing in this office, like I said, I'm leaving. This is not me coming to say I need more money. I just think that this position needs to be funded in a manner where you can get somebody in here who's here for the long term. And I just think at the level you're paying, you're just gonna continue to get an old retired guy like me, who's only gonna be here for a couple of years and you have turnover. I'd really like to see it, and I think it'd be better for the county.
You've been here for a couple of years.
Well, I've been here a year and a half, yeah. By the time I leave, it'll be 2 years, but and I feel bad about that. It's just the way my situation's, I did not, when I moved here, my mom was not sick. I was planning to be here for long. But then, with my mom and dad passing, just, we really don't have anything here.
So Lisa, is there, being that there's no additional ask for money, this is just reallocation of the funds that, is it that big a deal to make the change?
So
You're talking for
my
next year,
question
right?
would
You're
be,
talking for FY 24,
That's,
correct?
that's what I'm talking about.
So it's just a reallocation of the funds.
so I guess I'm going back to his original request, which was 12%. Did we do that? Is that 6 include them then, or is that where we fell with it?
So if you look at what you ended up with, I was gonna get about a 5.83% increase in my salary. And then the assistant director Debbie was getting about a 6% raise. Brianna's raise was a little bigger. It's just, we had some catch up to do because she was well behind where you were already hiring people at. So there
That
was,
was to, is to compensate for the additional, with you getting certified to be able to file claims and things like that. It was to help compensate for the additional duties that you were taking on that wasn't in your job.
yeah, right.
But a percentage of her salary also gets paid from Lynn, correct?
Right, so it's, the breakdown in 2024 will be, 20 hours a week will come from Veterans Affairs and 10 hours a week will come between, Becky and Lynn. So they split that 5 hours each, I think. So she'll be majority of, County Veteran Service Officer after fiscal year 2024.
This says it's a 7.83% pay increase
Or,
for the Veterans Affairs Administration Salary Director.
what I have was,
But are you figuring it off of the 27 pay period? So last year, that has messed up a lot of people. There was 27 pay periods in the
Okay.
year. So if you look at your grand total for the end
This-
of the year,
this is the paper I got with my budget on it, and it shows a 5.83% increase. The bottom number for the budget was $147,021. And I haven't asked to increase that at all. I'm just trying.
So what happens, Tony, if you get a bunch of funerals, then what?
But we'd have to come back to the county, but I think we can justify that in the just 2 years ago, we gave $5,000 back to the county. I think as long as I think they will hire a director or administrator who will monitor the budget well. What the commission, and they're not here to defend themselves, they think that budget has to be spent completely every year. So sometimes they've asked in the past for the director, not me, to make sure you spend every penny because they don't want the county to think that they should get money back every year. Well, I think if that, and I think, going forward, if those funds are meant for funerals and we don't have any funerals, those funds should be returned to the county at the end of the year. And then in the past, that has happened. Last year was different because we didn't come to you for the salary increase you gave to the director. We managed that by using up those funds. And we didn't go over budget, even though you hired a full-time director. So really, I'm transferring $2,600. We're averaging about one funeral every 3 years. We have enough in our budget we still have enough in our budget for at least two funerals. If we have to come back because of that, maybe we'd have to go to GA for some of that if we had a veteran who we could not help with a funeral, but historically that has not been the case. And I think a lot of that has due to us coming up with, getting the veterans in the door and getting them signed up for benefits and increasing, we've increased by $122,000 last month, what was brought in a year ago. That's almost more than our budget.
I don't have an issue with it if it's not an issue through auditing.
I would make a motion, we go ahead and make that change.
You're still studying?
Yeah. Because what I'm saying, we gave a 7.83% pay raise.
This is what I got, I mean, I can,
Can I,
What date's your printer?
yeah, so if it changes, the bottom line on the budget different. What department they moving?
21.
Yeah. So I'm showing 5 point,
144, 985.
oh, I'm showing 147. This was printed out on 3/16.
Ours is, mine was printed out on 2/13.
So the,
Oh, and but our insurance would be different.
Yeah.
but I mean, this was the bottom line and this is,
Can I say this one?
yeah.
Yes. So
Salaries were adjusted by actuals. So salaries were adjusted by Becky, and insurance was adjusted. Without looking at it, I can't tell.
So, because what his printout, what he has is 49,131 for the director. What our printout says is 50,058 for the directors,
Okay.
which is a 7.8.
And I'm really complaining about nothing.
That's why I'm not.
It's like-
Well, then I'm actually gonna go, because I don't know if that factored in the 8.7% pay increase, and then we decreased it to. Because if yours is printed out in March, ours is printed out in February. At least the printout I got, which has your numbers, was printed out February 13th, correct?
Yes, why,
So his would be less, maybe because when we went from 8% or 8.7 down to 6. Could be the difference.
well, even that was a 5.83.
I don't know.
So basically, we're still talking about just actually diverting the funds that are already there to a different allocation.
Well, there'd have
That's
to
pretty
be,
much what he's asking for is what we have in our.
But I would say with his being printed in March would be more of an accurate number with the changes when we decided.
Did you just go get that from him?
And things like that.
yeah, they sent it to me. Yeah, so I just,
So Shelley emailed out copies of the FY24 budget to all department heads in case there was something that they wanted to dispute or had questions over, and I'm sure that's what that is.
right, that's why I asked them
Yeah.
to come meet with the board and it's not, I mean, like I said, I'm just shifting some funds around. And I think it's better for the department as a whole.
So again, salaries were adjusted by Becky, insurance was adjusted without looking at the number. I can't give you an answer as far as. So what I'm understanding, what you're asking for is to move $2,600 from the general service line to veterans. And transfer that funds to the director and assistant director, but what's the split?
What I suggested was 1,600 goes towards the director's salary and 1,000 towards the assistant director. And then I know that's gonna change the FICA taxes and that could also come out of those funds, but and however that fell, but it gets the director's position up to over $50,000 a year, which I think just sounds better on paper. Especially when you're gonna have to hire a new director.
I still made my motion to make the change in the recommended.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second to agree to the allocation change as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Well,
Bill.
did you want any more about an update?
Update, yeah.
So in
You gotta hurry. All right,
2022, there were 303 claims filed. And the year before, there was 194. currently sitting in the federal system. There are 105 open cases out of Jackson County. 15 are ready for decision. Everything's moving really slowly with the VA. It's just the nature of the beast. And now when I say these numbers, we also help veterans from outside Jackson County. We don't turn people away. So there's probably another 30 claims out there that our offices helped with. In the last year that just are on the edges of Jackson County or maybe even a little further away, just because people have a hard time finding a veterans department that they feel is helpful. So we do get a lot of people from Illinois that come over. So that's where we're at. I think everybody there is doing a fantastic job. Things are looking pretty good. Cool. All right.
Thank you much.
All right. Thank you
I
guys.
appreciate that. Well, we'll see all of you do in that office, so don't think we
Thank you.
forget about you across the street, but
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
thank you. All right, we'll be joined by Jeannie Collins Pear and Nathan Jones. I'm sorry,
I don't think we did business.
We did.
I did. I asked them right after the visitors left.
Where are you guys?
Good.
I don't remember who was on the agenda first, so should we knock Jeannie off with the roadside stuff? That
Yeah.
works for you?
Yep,
Well, first of all,
gonna do the knock this week.
let's just follow the agenda a little bit maybe. So we got discussion, possible action on reappointments to the Jackson County Weed Commissioner. Virginia.
And if we reviewed the noxious weed resolution, I kind of kept it the same this year. I know there was some suggestion about adding reed, canary grass, and the concern was go by the seed out there, plantings with it, so it'd be kind of pointless to add it.
I don't wanna stop you or anything, but
Do
we
we gotta
actually, we
reappoint
gotta,
her first?
we gotta reappoint you and then we gotta discuss the
I
resolution.
was gonna say,
Jeannie as our,
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second to reappoint Jackson County Weed Commissioner Jenny Collins here to expire 2/28 of 24. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay, motion carried. Discussion possible action on the 23 noxious weed resolution.
I guess if you guys are okay with that, I'm gonna keep it as is.
I guess the question I had was the wild cucumber.
On here.
It's on there? Okay, yeah, I was looking for it and I didn't see it.
Yeah.
I thought we had it
I'm not
last
seeing
year.
a lot of it yet, but it,
Well, I was just telling these guys, I seen it attack my neighbor's cornfield last year and it was scary.
I saw some of it up Z34 on the Preston Highway and that it was
By the time.
working its way.
And they walked that field when the corn was about this tall. And to walk the whole thing, and 3 weeks later, I tell you, that thing just overtook it, and they come in with flames and dusted it. They killed it, but it was 2 acres that was bare in the center of the cornfield.
The seed bed that's there is, I guess, concerned. But
I
I lay
suppose.
there for this year.
Do you have any idea where it came from, or does it just kind of pop up every once in a while?
Yeah, I'm sure wildlife is doing its part to spread the. seed.
You see it on the fence lines, if you kinda can tell,
Even
yeah.
at the combine, and that combine goes from this field to that field, and see it on the river banks, or sometimes I assume
I
it's
think
red.
I had it behind my office, if you do the vine back there, it's going nuts on it, just out of nowhere, all of a sudden it started growing. And,
Could very well be.
So with that being said, do you call Jeannie and she comes and looks and then we treat it, or how do we do that?
Roundup.
And actually, from what I've seen, it's pretty easy to pull. If it's only a couple plants, it doesn't have a real extensive root system. You can, if you find the base, you can pull it.
That's perennial. So if you pull it that one, does it come back?
It shouldn't if you get the roots. I
Oh.
mean, not that there's not seeds there that.
Okay, any other questions on the
Motion to approve.
that's a
motion and a second to approve the 2023 noxious weed resolution as presented? Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried. Discussion of possible action on the 2023 integrated roadside vegetation management plan.
Okay, so. Put the plan together last year, you signed it, I submitted it, and then the DOT sent it back and they. Want some things added, some editing done to it, so that's basically what I've done. There's a few things added to the plan I submitted last year, and. If you guys have reviewed it and you're okay with it, I have. The form that's actually in the plan, and if the board chair wants to sign it, and we'll resubmit it to the DOT.
We started some spraying last year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, really.
Awesome. I mean, certain areas more than others, or,
I worked on invasives early in June, and then I worked on brush a little later in the year, sumac and right up Caves Road and E17 areas like that. It was pretty heavy. I worked on that. Did some bush honeysuckle spraying in the fall.
On average, about how much, what percentage of the county do you think you hit it?
Probably a pretty small portion. Places. Takes a lot of time in and out of the.
so we just implemented that last year, is that correct? And we bought a bigger sprayer, or was that the year before already?
We actually had it the year before. We
Never,
put the most into it last year. We really started hitting it, using it a lot.
That was something we even talked about in budget, roadside maintenance in Todd was like, we're like. Well, being, he said it was something like 75,000, we could spray every ditch in the county, you know. I don't know how that falls in the plan, is that something that you can see maybe would be helpful to kind of help get everything under control and then more spot maintenance with.
I guess maybe spot spray the real problematic areas. My concern is if we're doing widespread broadcast, we're killing all those good plants and we'll get predominantly grown roadsides, which really isn't beneficial. It's really not what the DOT wants for their plan. They want diversity in their roadsides. Something beneficial to the soil, beneficial to wildlife, pollinators, things like that. That's more what they're wanting in the plan. And if we do that widespread spraying, killing off beneficial plants.
don't kill grandma's roses, I'm just saying.
That's right. Kill the flowers.
No, we appreciate that, and,
So
I mean, the plan. This is the same one that was emailed, correct?
Yes.
Pretty much the only thing that changed to it was that addendum and keywords and.
Added a few things they wanted to see put in theirs.
I did talk to the engineer last weekend about that spraying, just out of curiosity. I could see doing a little more, maybe even do a contract, but not as extensive as Clinton County to get some spots under control if we have to. In future budgets. That, and then we come in with this plan's money and reseed it with a diverse native.
So, yeah, I
And then
appreciate
catch
that.
snow and have the pollinators before we. If you spray it, we're just probably gonna promote the noxious weeds we were talking about, most likely when you open up a area with sun. That's it, it's in all of our, all these noxious weeds are in all of our seed banks. That's the problem.
And the native plantings might actually help. Control that.
Yeah, we can get the natives going and.
Around them.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you're working with the engineer and.
Yeah, I just thought
We
that stuff and talk to them.
got new machine, you know, with a
Yeah,
brush hog that we don't wanna take everything out, but we'd like to clean up some of that brush that's overtaken us and.
That was-
Paved roads, and they can start with their.
discussion I had with him of his crews, as I do utilize that in some areas, if they could map or at least let us know. So the following year when we get. these
Right,
routes, we can
Right, absolutely.
try to get ahead of some of it. Kind of thing, so they let us know what they're working on.
A little easier to control too, when you're having spraying the smaller stuff.
Yeah, less chemical.
Yep.
Saves money. So,
So, where do we wanna be with the roadside vegetation plan?
Approve
Second that.
it with the chair's signature, so it can be sent to the state.
Have a motion and a second to approve the 2023 integrated roadside vegetation management plan as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
Just get this with
You know,
you.
I could give it right back to you if you ain't. Make sure I'm signing on the right line. You want that changed or is that okay? Oh, up here. Oh, he's down here.
Yep, he's for County Conservation Board.
In chair now?
Yep, he decided since he never wanted to be a chair when he was a supervisor. He wanted to be chair now.
There you have it.
Great.
Check it out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other updates?
You guys have anything more for her? I can give you kind of an update on the last board meeting for conservation. If you guys wanna sway away from the not just weed.
I wanna hear about the harbor wall.
Yeah. I don't wanna even think about the harbor wall, but we can start there, Mike.
I read the minutes.
We kind of are, I didn't get a lot of direction. I was just, I feel personally, I didn't get a lot of direction from our board last month, or at the last board meeting on the harbor wall. So he is hired.
You're kind of just locked, that's what. you
Yeah, I'm
do.
kind of in a pinch there, but, the contractor has hired more crew. He's starting to move a little faster. The original contract deadline was supposed to be April 1st. He's maybe a quarter done with what his whole project was supposed to be right now. With the fact that we had to postpone him to wait for permitting the 60-some days, we have to add that on to our April 1st deadline. Now, here's where my question was for the board. The projected river, we're projected to have like the 4th highest flood in the history of the river right now as a possibility. That's gonna shut him down. And in that contract we had written for him, probably a foresight or a mistake, but thought it was maybe to help our bids, but I wrote in there that in case of disaster, flooding or whatever, that takes, those days will be added on at a different time. So if we do flood in those 60 days, we'll have to add that on. So that's the question is, and was, and I think it's still gonna be for me to figure out how do we get this done. I wanna get it done in this fiscal year for sure. And not limit the campground. Try to provide as many docks as we can, hopefully. I think we're not gonna be able to provide them all. So there's 2 questions that I gotta figure out going forward, and I don't know the real answer, and I was gonna sit down with Lisa at some point and see if she had ideas, but pay's probably gonna have to fall, some of the pay's gonna have to fall into next year. That was ARPA funds that you guys had budgeted for that project at 400,000. Is that something we can roll over into the next fiscal year, even though we didn't budget? Yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep, 343, so I don't know.
Okay, nope.
Yeah, so can we roll those numbers over? And then how do we handle these dock owners? Do we prorate every day? They don't divide the cost over the season and prorate the days they can't
What do you
utilize.
consider the season? April 1st or?
Well, this year we wrote the contract April 15th because we thought, well, he gets done April 1st, that'd give us 15 days to get all our brackets in place, put our docks in place.
So their fee was not, what would be normal date? For doc,
It would normally have been April
Okay.
1st through.
April 1st. So they didn't receive any compensation for them 15 days anyway.
No, because we wrote it,
Okay.
before we
So
sent this contract out, I'm like, let's change.
is
it to
there
15
a
days.
possibility that we're gonna get from the dock on or from the corner around? It's right in the middle where we're starting or what's going on there?
He's starting kind of towards the middle.
That's what I perceived.
And and Jeannie's there every day and sees some of the progress, but I don't foresee him. I would say 34 docks are gonna be affected for a little period, probably 33, 34 docks of the 88 in the harbor. Like,
Well, we certainly can't predict the environment.
we can't predict flooding, I mean,
No.
we, there's projections and everything.
They're both ain't gonna be in there anyway if it's flooded, so.
No, and that's the thing, if we go into flood stage, we've never reimbursed them for that in the
Right.
past, but.
I would see how much pushback you get, because the fact of the matter is that, there's cost to improvements and.
And I think what I was thinking, maybe we write a letter. I think Ned might have suggested this, that if they want us to look at a prorate, they need to respond within so many
I don't
days. or
even
something.
know that I'd ask.
Most people
I would
don't.
see how much guff you got over it and
Yeah,
maybe go from there and see. um, I mean, you've got a list, so it's not like we're looking for it.
Right.
yeah,
But, I don't think you're gonna lose any in time.
no, we have a waiting
Cause
list.
they don't wanna give up their docks, obviously, for next year.
Nope. So there was, and that, there was some other discussion, just policy in general. I read what we had different than what our board read it. I think it's gonna cost me some headaches here in the near future, but, there's some stuff that came out of that last meeting I have to address probably for the harbor alone. So that project is probably our biggest one going on that isn't going smoothly by any means. But I think there's some options, and it just probably more relations with me as dock owners approach us with questions, how we handle this. A good thing for you guys out of the last board meeting, at least I think it's a good thing, and it's gonna save money out of the budget, is the board approved steps instead of the ramp off the center. And we had budgeted 80,000 out of that. So, and the steps were just over 10,000, so instead of doing the ramp, we're going to steps to meet the insurance requirements off the east side of the center. So that's big savings there, so we're gonna go that direction. On that structure, and the local contractor's gonna try to get that done for the physically, he said he can, so hopefully that's the case, get those in. For the fiscal year there, so. Trying to think if there was anything else pressing out of that meeting. It was pretty general open, mostly, I mean, the bulk of the meeting discussion was, and I had it, was gonna be that harbor wall and harbor project. We'll discuss Destination Iowa next Monday at a meeting, so I'm gonna stay out of that one. Campgrounds. We're a little bit discussion on opening, and that was one thing, April 15th was projected opening. I looked at for revenue and some of that stuff. If this is a cause, we're not losing money, because most years we have like maybe 1 or 2 campers in April. We're not really, probably costing us money to drive people back and forth to check the registration. If we
Have
have to
somebody
push it
there.
back or something on a weekend or whatever. So I don't think it's gonna be a big concern there, but that's something I told the office manager yesterday. If we start getting calls, that we'll just have to keep it updated, watch for a posting, or keep calling for updates on when it might open.
So,
Okay.
I guess, Nathan, is, we talked about where he started the project. Is he proceeding both ways from there, or is he gonna go one way, so we could finish,
Well,
say, this portion or the portion around the corner?
he's going one way right now to finish to the, what is the newest
Park fence?
the park side right now, and then he's gonna. Sounded like he wanted to go from the ramp, move around and go from the ramp to where he started.
Oh,
Is what I don't know really what his he had some reason, it didn't make a lot of sense to me, but
I would hope they would get around the ramp done as fast as possible.
Yes.
Because that's gonna be the
that,
business there.
well, that's gonna be the.
No.
People don't have docks if they're gonna
Right,
be.
I mean, you're just talking boaters and fishermen and all those people,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that,
Yeah,
you,
at least we have the river ramp as an option always, but, from the. Ramp to the river is already a newer section of the wall, so at least that's not gonna get touched. So
oh, there is a new section there. I
on that
thought you were
side
going
of the, so it's from the ramp to the
River,
west, I would say is what's getting replaced.
yeah,
My opinion.
right,
So-
right.
Yeah, so,
What's the projection for this river? I watch it, and I don't see any beginning a lot every day or every week, but,
well, there's supposed to be a new one coming out, but the last one and there's several different sites that have, but one of them I read was over 21 feet.
Type one.
So that'd be comparable to the 2010, I think it was, which is a major.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be in our shower building.
I know I got friends in Minneapolis and they said they got more snow this year than they can remember.
Yeah.
So they don't know a date or kind of projection?
No, and I think that's more weather
Yeah, really?
related. I'm just kind of hoping they have it.
Are we doing everything?
For their sake, they probably don't want it, but we want the slow warm.
Are we doing everything we can to motivate this contractor to go as?
Yeah, and I've been stopping down quite often, trying to, and he actually finally hired, cause he was doing this with 2 guys, now he's got 5 guys down there. So he said he'd been trying to hire people, but he couldn't find people,
Yeah.
so. That is. Actually haven't, now that we're in public meeting, but I haven't told them that the extension is something, try to keep them moving. But it's something that's out there now. But I wanna keep them, cause if that river's coming up, he needs to keep them move on it. Yeah, so. Nothing really, park update, this winter storm this weekend brought down a bunch of trees on some of the areas. So these guys will be out cutting trees, like the bike trail between Preston and Spragueville and C-34, sounds like it's a little tree cover from it. Some of the areas, so that'll be some of their work. Building docks in the process right now in the shop, so. But yeah, nothing too new and pressing, so, you guys have any questions for me?
No,
Nope.
appreciate it.
You did talk about like trying to put docks in as he got.
Yeah, I think that's
Things
something
going.
we gotta figure out with the staff for the harbor is how we store some of the docks, where we can go with it, we kind of try to keep some open for people to utilize, but the flooding's always an issue, because we always stored our docks in the back end of the harbor where he's working to try to keep them from mitigating flood floating out of the harbor.
Finish that before the water comes up and secure something.
Yeah.
There's more water in Mississippi right now than there was all last year.
Yeah.
So when you put the concrete panels behind the planking. And then you take the planking off and replace the planking. The concrete walls are behind
The
the.
concrete wall is below the planking, and the
below-
planking's built on it. So,
Okay,
and I don't know if you've been back, I know you've seen it, Mike, but he, off the, right above the. Right concrete planking, he puts dead man off those pilings he's driving,
okay.
and now that's how he's straightening the wall back. Or all, everything out, he's got adjustment.
So
on
them
those.
concretes are level, more level. than-
Yes,
Alright,
so. Hopefully, Alex. Is the engineer on the project, and he says it's good, so I'm taking. That's what I have to go with. So.
Yeah.
I know we're gonna get differences of opinion, but.
I think that's just it, I mean, everybody. You could do project 3 different ways probably, and. One of them might be better than others, and. But I guess. I don't feel like I'm the one to say over engineer, but something.
Okay, so
I
there's
appreciate
several
it.
ways to get to Dubuque, and sometimes it seems like you might be going through like Preston.
Yeah.
Sabula, and all the scenic route, but
Yep,
Still get there.
yeah, you can still get there, so.
so,
Well, thanks for the update.
yeah,
Thanks, Nathan.
thanks.
Thanks, Gene.
Thanks, Jacob. Josh, are you just visiting or you missed the visitor section, but
No, I was just saying hi, I don't know business.
slow day?
Need a break?
Yeah.
No, we're just about done with taxes and those things, otherwise, no problem, we're gonna execute the contracts, whatever, so I really don't have anything.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you
Stop
stopping
by
in.
and say,
Alright. Marty,
Yes, I am.
you're on deck.
We cleared the room for you.
Jackson County Maintenance Supervisor.
Morning.
Department update, good morning.
Not a whole lot to report, other than, I did put another load of gravel up at the care facility on the driveway. One wasn't quite enough. With the help of secondary roads. I paid for the gravel, they hauled it for me. We put a total of 2 up there. down at the Welcome Center, I took the sign down and the flower bed, I'm gonna call it, around it. Took it down, I hauled it to the care facility. Piled the stone, cause I thought maybe sometime we might separate them out there, cause they were pretty good shape. The sign we'll throw on the pile and burn it. I didn't get it there because it was a little wet. Right now I have it in that cement paddock right out there. I just put it down in there because I could get in and out of there without getting stuck. Had a request from Bjorn to put a couple more plugins in his IT room and got started on that. We're just gonna surface mount them because the walls are plastered. We're just gonna do like we did here, is what we're gonna do. I don't, what we figure, 4 of them? 3 of them. And having problems with the sliding door out here. Somebody bumps it, takes it off the track, and then I gotta put it back in the track. I don't know who's doing that, but the last week I've done it about 3 or 4 times.
Coming off because something's broken, or is it
No,
just people aren't patient?
yeah, I think it opens too slow and they bump into it or something. I'm not for sure then. But if I go up and put it back on the track, because you can take the door and
'Cause
open
they're-
it,
yeah.
yeah, it just, you know,
I mean, they're kind of meant to break away, but.
yeah, and it does, and then it won't work. I did push a little snow on Saturday, like about 8 inches. It was wet, it was heavy. And of course, I took the snow plow and all everything off my truck so I could haul the sign on Thursday or Friday. So I had to get that back on, but I did get the snow pushed. They had a master gardeners meeting down at the, yeah, and I wasn't aware of it, or otherwise I'd have pushed snow there first, but I was here. And then when I found out, then I went down there and did that. I serviced my van, changed the oil in it, air cleaner and all that. From pushing snow, the lawn wasn't froze. So they got big piles of dirt everywhere. So I took the skid loader and leveled it all back out. Hoping we wouldn't have to push snow again, but I did, but I left it on the cement, so I didn't do that again. And when we were moving the doors around, I had one door left up to put back on. I got that on. And that's about it. Do we know when the cattle are coming back to the care facility pasture?
No,
Okay.
that lease runs from.
I know it takes them out November 1st, but I didn't know.
April 1 to November 1, I believe.
They gotta go back up and turn the
Turn
water
the
on.
water on. And did you
Yeah.
ever get that valve fixed?
The plumber told me just to crank on it. If it breaks, it breaks. He says more likely it ain't gonna break, and it didn't. So we're
So
gonna,
don't rip a shoulder or something cranking on.
right, thanks. I'm glad you're concerned. The valve is, it's like a curb stop. It's down in the ground. And it's got a big T handle, and a couple times we had to crank on it real hard, so I touched base with the Joel Woods, the plumber that does a lot of that for the city. You know, he says, just crank it. If it breaks, it breaks. If it don't, it don't. And it didn't break. It took a lot to turn it, but it didn't break.
So is there another shut off somewhere? So when it does break, you can shut it off at the building?
You know, that's a good question, Mike, and I can't answer that, but I would hope to think there was.
I would guess it's coming from inside that building, correct?
Right.
By the big tank, so there must be a shut off. Has to be a shut off that goes over to that hydrant.
I will touch base with Jared on that.
Yeah,
Just
or even,
so I know.
is
for a
Dave
fact.
still around?
Who?
Dave, you
Tyson?
ever talked to him lately?
No, the last time we called him was something on the generator.
So that thing's been actually working,
What?
generator.
Well, they just had to do something to it here in the last couple of weeks. And again, I don't know, something wasn't quite right, so they had to fix it. Yeah. And I haven't got up to look at the garage door situation yet, but I will do that.
I think
Okay.
that makes a pretty good room for us, yeah, if we need to.
Yeah, I'm almost positive we can put a garage door in, but I just don't know how tall
Yeah.
it can be. All right. And that's about all I got.
Okay, appreciate it.
I
Any
just-
questions?
I just have a question with like what went on Saturday where he didn't know there was an event going on. If, like, these people are doing an event on the weekend, obviously the snow was forecasted. Is there a way we can get communication out to people that they should be contacting him?
Well,
that
we
I
had
got
some
a weekend-
discussion on Saturday about this, and I wasn't very happy about it, but if, I would think it'd be their responsibility to say if they're having an event. And they know there's, I mean, it was predicted 1 to 6, and we got 8 or whatever it was,
Right.
but then they should let somebody
I
know,
mean,
yes.
To me, that would only be common decency to,
Like if
Or
they're
maintenance.
closed or something, they never tell me. Otherwise, I wouldn't clean it, you know, I would spend more time up here. Usually I clean that first because of the RTA buses,
right,
but if they're closed, I have no idea that they're closed, they never tell me.
Okay, so how about if we maybe just draft a letter to say, you know, we appreciate if, you know, if you would let us know of upcoming events that we can prepare for maybe something in.
well, or that way if something breaks, he at least has an idea that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, Roger Mueller was the first one to let me know that. He asked me if I was gonna push that, and I said, yeah, eventually, and he said, well, there's something going on there at 9 o'clock, and this was like 8:15, and I said, you know, I don't know for sure if I'm gonna make it there, because I had to go to Andrew to get the blade for the truck, cause I had taken it off, you know, and I was just, all what I was gonna do was the sidewalk, cause I knew it was gonna melt by Monday, you know?
And Roger is actually off.
Right, somebody from Secondary Road, mom was involved in that, and she thought that Secondary Roads cleaned it, so she called her kids. They called Roger called me.
And I got a phone call from the master gardeners that left 8 that morning saying, we need this cleared. And they got my number from Jack. She called Jack and then I tried to call Mike and he wasn't available. Tried to call you weren't answering. I called Lisa, I said, what do you want me to do? But by that time, I think you had already found out about it, or Roger had, and it was in the works, but it was a scramble because we had less than an hour to get it cleared.
I mean, it would just be, I guess, common decency too.
So we need to send them a letter, just say, hey.
At least they were nice, if I cleaned the back of it, and then they moved all their vehicles back there, then I cleaned the front. Cause I really don't like pushing snow with all the vehicles there, because
Liability.
it's a good way to crash. Cause you keep going back and forth, and you know, there's always that one person that'll
That
come right up.
sneaks in behind you
Oh,
there.
yeah. And it has happened.
Well,
Alright.
I'm gonna put that on Luann's agenda for the supervisors, from the supervisors to send them a letter, say we appreciate the updates and.
Okay. Hopefully the carpet should be coming here pretty soon, shouldn't
It
it?
was supposed to be in, I think, last Thursday or Friday, and he thought he was 3 weeks before he could land, so.
Okay.
He said he could do the magistrate room or the courtroom first. He'd like to do them at the same time, so. We're also discussing wiring moving yet,
Wiring?
that big box.
Oh, yeah. Was it you wanna discuss, you know, if we got like a thing that you lift engines out of your car and put that in the door, I think we could just lift that up and for a little bit.
I think the information we got is not to touch it,
Well, that's what the guy always told me. He,
but they're gonna move it, they're even mount it to the wall, so.
okay, cause I know somebody in the building was pretty persistent wanting it moved, and the IT guy for them said, don't touch that box. Okay? So if they need help, if they come up and need help doing something, lifting it or holding it or, you know, running for them or whatever. Have them get a hold of me, we can help them,
With the
right?
IT and yeah,
Alright?
Yep.
Alright,
you're on speed dial.
thanks, yeah. Too speedy,
Thank you, Marty. Is Elizabeth coming, do we know?
Yeah, should.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Is Elizabeth coming? You have to call her.
I didn't think so, but I'll call her. Probably been down here checking.
At least want to do yours while we wait.
King, this morning I need a motion to approve the minutes of the March 21st, 2023 board proceedings written by Auditor Smith and authorize publication in the official newspaper.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the approval of the minutes of the March 21st board proceedings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Favored, opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Need a motion to approve and authorize the auditor's office to issue warrants in the publication of the claims listing in the amount of $330,777.36.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the claims in the amount presented. With a note that, like Todd said, there was 125,30,000 in gravel. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
That's all that I have to report today.
Thank you. And with us today, we have Elizabeth Townsend, our Jackson County Health Administrator. Good morning. Good. So far.
Give it again.
What do we get?
It's just more trees.
And stuff, yeah, more trees.
This is the same one as last,
You have one, but nobody, did I give you this last time?
last.
I did, I gave you one.
Yeah.
Nobody else got. I missed one report. Well. Yeah. From our Board of Health meeting last Tuesday. And then a couple things, Scott County came to the meeting. And so I gave you some of the services that they're providing, I highlighted them. So they provide a few services for Jackson County. They do our tanning inspections and the tattoo shop inspections. And our swimming pool inspections. So those are covered under the environmental health side of things. They also do those services for Clinton County, so it's not uncommon. They have quite a few, they have like 8 employees in their environmental health department. So just wanted you to be aware of that. It had been talked about when I took my position here that maybe they wanted me to take the swimming pool inspections back on. There is a certification process in order for me to be able to do those. So that's something that we could definitely maybe doing in the future. We have, I believe, 5 pools, 2 spas, 1 wading pool to be inspected in the county. And then inspections are just ongoing. If they're not, meeting the requirements, would keep after them. It would be the same with like a restaurant inspection type situation. Let's see, and then I think we only have 1 tattoo place in the county, so that's see, and then they also this is the public health side of things. They do the eye smile and the Hawkeye Medicaid. So anybody from our county that's needing those services, they want. That's that. And then, okay, so for my report, the annual pumper inspections, so we are contracted with the DNR to do those inspections every year. When I went to begin the inspections, I found out that our pumpers are not keeping records of where they're putting septage. So the only one of our 4 pumpers that has a permit to take that to Dubuque is Mickle Septic, and I know that he has not been taking it there. So I kind of reached out to all the pumpers and read through their records, and I said, you guys have to keep records. We have to know where your land applying. We have to know how much your land applying. We have to know where it's coming from. So I spoke with the DNR just to kind of troubleshoot what's the best way to approach this. And basically we decided that just sending out a certified letter saying, these are the requirements you need to meet within the next 30 days in order to get your pumper license renewal through the DNR this year. So I gave everybody a 30-day. They had to sign a little thing saying that they agreed to it.
So I'll go back in the next couple weeks and do inspections to see, make sure that they're keeping track of that. I may go out to the sites as well. It is kind of hard to go to a site to determine if something was land applied on or not, or how much was put there. So, you know, it's possible in future I may require at least, you know, once a year, go and observe them doing that land application. Just to make sure that things are being done correctly, so. Just wanted you to be aware of that in case you would get any phone calls or anything.
Does that have to be just in a certain amount of time or covered or?
Yeah, so they have to either mix it with ag lime, or it has to be disked or injected into the ground. And they can only do so much, you know, per acre. So without, I guess, you know, without going back on past records, I didn't want to make them backtrack because I already know they're not keeping track. Some of them were keeping receipts, so they would have a receipt from the place that they pumped, but then I don't know where it went. So, and we're supposed to be able to go and look on, you know, aerial maps to kind of figure it out, but quite honestly, I didn't get the support from the DNR that I was looking for. So it really comes down to, you know, our own county, do we want to implement more strict ordinances, that type of thing. And I think at this point, we don't need to do anything, but if it becomes problematic in future, maybe we should look at doing something. I know there's only 2 counties in the state that have land application ordinances that are more stringent than what the DNR requires.
Oh, we certainly want to know where it's going.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and rumors fly and you hear different things and it's like, I can't go after anybody based off of a rumor. I know one of the pumpers only has a few acres to land apply. I know he does a lot of business in Jackson County and Clinton County. So then I start wondering, where is everything going? Supposedly he has an agreement with the city of Sebula, but there's no records from that either. They have a
To
rural-
dump, you mean?
Yeah.
So if he dumps there, then there should be a record of either a weight or a record or gallons or
Yeah,
a date or something.
it should be date, gallons, and there should be something, but he said it was verbal with them, so. Yeah, so it's kind of a mess right now, but we're, you know, I put together a form for them to complete so that they know what we are looking for. One of the pumpers actually already had a form very similar to it that he had created himself. But he wasn't using it. So,
Well, I certainly appreciate the fact that we're following up with it anyway, and I appreciate you looking into it and inspecting them. And,
Yep.
I mean, we certainly need compliance and, or we'd like to have compliance. I don't want it. We have regulations in place, so.
right, and a lot of them, excuse me, a lot of them are land applying on property owners, like say, so they went out to your house, pumped your tank, and you said, yeah, go ahead and land apply on my, you know, crop ground or whatever. You know, that's where I think it really got out of control, where they were just like, oh, it's just property owner, I don't have to, you know, write that down or keep track of that, but we do, so we need to know where that's going. And I don't know, they had complaints that they wanted it, you know, the cities to open up so that they could, you know, take it there, and I don't know. I don't know what the options are there, but I think that, you know, other places I've worked, you know, the issue was things weren't being screened and they're dumping a bunch of junk in there, and honestly, I mean, we don't even have, they're not screening things, I don't believe, so in other words, like condoms and needles and tampons, all waste products like that go into our land here, and so I don't know, I kind of think that maybe we should put something in place requiring that.
Why don't you investigate that a little bit and see what the norm is, or if there is a per se quota system or something in place in other counties our size or any counties, as a matter of fact.
So if they're screening that too, they also have to have a record of where they're disposing what they're
Exactly.
screening.
Yes, so typically what they do is they just kind of wait till everything's out of the truck, and then whatever's left, they scrape it out and take it to the dump. I think.
We understand.
But yeah, so it's definitely an issue, but we're gonna try to get under control. They didn't understand why I was doing this, and I'm like, well, it's because it's a requirement from the DNR. We don't want the county, we don't want things out of control.
Well, it's a health issue.
It is.
That's what our job is.
Right, right. Well, and for me, I just, this is just one thing I got thinking about. It's like, I would like to know, like, are people walking in a place where there's, human waste applied to the land and they don't even know it? I just feel like, that's something that should be marked. I mean, it's a public health hazard. There could be people walking through a field and not know that it was just recently land applied.
Riding a horse and then it's coming back to the farm and it's coming back to the house and it's coming back.
These sewer trucks, do they have to keep a log of where they go?
They're supposed to, that's what she's saying, but they haven't been keeping they have not been keeping
No,
records.
I'm not talking about where they dump, I'm talking about where they go to pump the septic tank. Because saying that we need to know where you're dumping is one thing, but if they don't, they can say, well, I haven't really been dumping anywhere. Do they have a log of
So-
these are the places?
So
that I went?
basically, how many did they do in the last one?
Right,
Right,
so we don't have record of that. It had crossed my mind that maybe, we're to the point where they need to have some sort of a permit to do them. I mean, I don't wanna make it too complicated for people and add more paperwork to my department, but, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't know what's going on, I don't know.
Maybe on
what's-
that log that we created, we could, what's on that truck, maybe we need a slat for residents that they accumulated.
So I have that is on there on the log, yeah, so I added it, I don't know, we'll see, I mean, I have.
when those property owners said, yeah, you can dump it here. Are they just getting theirs? Or did the last guy that said no? And then they went to maybe it only filled half the truck, they go to a new place and they pump it out, and then you say, yeah, sure, you're getting more than your own,
Right,
so to speak.
right, and I don't know if that's disclosed to them, and, and on the log, there's the opportunity for them to tell me, where was it? Was it 2 tanks they pumped and then pumped it on, the neighbors?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I felt like there should be some sort of a disclosure to the property owner, some sort of, something that, they could be liable, I mean, there's just so many different things, but like I said, the DNR didn't seem to have too much concern, so I think it would really come down to the county and what we would like to do.
Good.
So that was kind of my big excited stuff, yeah.
Keep it up.
Okay, so then our grants to counties claims, so the state put a new system together, so any claims that we do for our grants, not just our grants to counties, but anything that, public health is putting in there. IDPH, they created a new system, and so kind of delayed on getting information there, it was held up, but I did get everything submitted. And then the animal bite pamphlet I put together, you guys have a copy of that. So this is something that I basically put together for our law enforcement, to hand out, because they're usually the first ones to respond to a dog bite or a cat bite or any kind of an animal bite. A lot of the times, the information that they are giving people isn't correct. Like, we've had some animals, euthanized, shot sight unseen, when they should have been quarantined, held for a certain period of time. Or basically the head should have been reserved and sent into the state for observation. So I put that together, I don't know, looks kind of like a kindergartner did it, but anyway, so I took it to all of the law enforcement, in the county and said, hey, hand these out. So they have been using them for the most part. I didn't have a bite over the weekend where one wasn't handed out. We actually had a police department and the sheriff's department respond, and neither one of them handed it out. So I was like, hey, you guys, please give this to people, so that basically it's an important piece, because there's oftentimes a delay between the time that they respond to the bite and that I'm able to get in contact with them. So it's just to give them information, questions to answer the questions that they would heard. Yep, so that was the other thing, I mean,
They
medical, yeah,
usually notify law enforcement, but
yeah. Yeah, so I can put some there, and then, I was also gonna give some out to the vet clinics, because they had asked for them as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Even, I don't suppose you have a booth up like the fair or anything like that, but there's maybe a rack or something.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get them out to people, and even, so I send letters out, so anytime somebody's been bit, I'm gonna start including those too, even though I hate using so much paper, but it's something that. It's just like anything else, you know, somebody has that, and then they know somebody that, you know, it's just. People will see it more and maybe look at it and understand what the process is, so. And then a binding agreement for future demolition, I think you guys, Lori already brought that to you, but, so we actually had a binding agreement, for a demolition, so anytime there's a property that transfer exchanges hands, and somebody doesn't wanna keep it, they'll do a demo, they're gonna say that they're gonna demo the building. Well, this gentleman didn't demo it for 2 years, he asked for an extension, and so he basically had 2 years where normally we like to see like, you know, something demolished within a few months. I went out to the site and the house had like trees growing through it and just. It's not even a place where somebody could live, so I wasn't concerned about the septic system anymore. At that point, it became a nuisance. So it got handed off to the zoning office, and I'm not really sure that that was the right thing to do. I know we have an ordinance for the county for nuisance, and I think there's some confusion, because I think the zoning office thinks that they are solely responsible for all nuisance. But we have public health nuisance. So I don't know if there needs to be a separate nuisance ordinance put in place for public health, so that we can be more specific about that.
I think it has to be, come down to what the nuisance is.
Right, so this one could have it could have been considered a public health hazard, you know, because you've got the vector control issue, you've got wild animals that might be living in there, and there's all different things. I hadn't been into the house. But anyway, I think there needs to be some clarification there.
In the binding agreement that was signed and extended, was there any penalty stated as to say, okay, you're promising you're gonna do it in a year? And a
Right,
year happens and they don't, is
so it's,
there a municipal infraction for not,
There is for zoning, but I don't know.
Yes.
Who did the,
so it's through my office, it's a DNR form that we use. It basically says they're entering into an agreement with the Board of Health. It gets notarized, it gets, you know, recorded with everything, so. But it's about the septic system. It's like, we don't want somebody to buy a property, say they're gonna tear it down, but then decide to live in it and be using a septic system that's failing. So that's where our concern is. So at that point, I was like, well, nobody's definitely living in there. I mean, it's just, you know, I think if somebody went in that place, they would have fallen through the floor. So at that point, I didn't feel like the septic was an issue. Because we were gonna go make them put in a new, you know, septic, but I guess we could have gone after them to.
that
Well,
might be
there's
a way
not-
of getting them to tear it down.
That would be a way to maybe get the
I
house
think
done to be
that's-
there,
yeah.
is the fact, okay, you gotta, which is cheaper. to
You got-
Tear the house.
You
down
got
or
3
put in the
months to get
septic
this
system.
down, or you need a septic in.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, but if there's nobody living there not using it, how can you require?
so it
a
wasn't
septic?
habitable, yeah, so it needed to come down no matter what. And when I talked with the zoning
But
office.
he's not doing it is the issue.
It sounds to me more like
Put
a,
this on the pretense that you're gonna tear it down. So if this ain't torn down and you're 2 years into this now, going on to the third, I believe, from what I've read. You're not fulfilling your end of it, so now you need to upgrade the septic or have it toward.
Eventually, there needs.
We're
to
giving
be-
you 3 months to get
Right,
this
well,
done.
that's the thing, so I didn't feel like the ordinance, I don't. That's where I feel like there needs to be something specific to these things, like maybe we need to rewrite that word.
Well, to me, if you're saying septic isn't an issue because nobody can live there, if nobody can live there, septic's not an issue. I don't know if that removes you from the equation, and then, to me, if Lori takes over with zoning and it's an abatement property, you know, it needs to come down. That maybe restarts the clock, so to speak, but eventually, if it has to come down, that was the agreement, okay? Eventually, we need to get to the point where if you're not doing it, there's some teeth involved, there, you know, cause, you know, kids are adventurous and they like to see things like this and
Right,
the liability of it, and a lot of times if this house, this property purchased with, oh, I'm gonna tear this down, so they wanted it for a different price, a cheaper price, you know, uninhabitable building, I ain't paying for a house that you can't live in, they got it at a cheaper price with the understanding it'll be torn down and they're not doing it,
right.
um,
So I think the confusion, so the Board of Health creates their own public health ordinances. So at that point, that ordinance that we have is a county board of super, it's an ordinance that you guys would enforce. So that's why I'm saying if I think that maybe my board needs to talk about some sort of a ordinance for, I mean, I don't know, man, what do you? Or, you know, just rewrite it, say Board of Health, and it's just hard because there's not, I don't feel like.
Well, again, there's gotta be parameters or guidelines that we could follow that others would have or something to the effect. It sounds like to me that this has gone to a nuisance. That somebody needs to file a complaint as a nuisance. And then we proceed like we would, the one up by St. Donatus or what, I mean, basically, all we did was send them a letter, I had relation, go talk to them and it was gone. They burnt it and gone.
Right, it was, yeah.
So, I mean, we have to pressure it somehow, whether it goes to Lori's department now or wherever, we have to make that decision. Somebody has to make that decision
right,
and move forward, so.
But we need to get to the
I
end
think
point.
Yeah.
that's what she's done, is she's passed it to Lori's now.
So I did the
As a
letter.
nuisance.
Yep, I said you got, 30 days to do this, and if you don't, then it gets handed off to the zoning office as a nuisance. I just don't know if that was the right thing to do, and like I said, some of these other nuisances that come in, I'm not sure that they're me, cause I follow Board of Health ordinances.
So again, maybe the gentleman to ask that's sitting right behind you is which is the right procedure to follow, and where does it go from there, I mean, maybe at some point we have to get, legal advice and say, this is how we're gonna pursue with it,
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see something done with the ordinance, either to divide it off to explain who, because to me, an ordinance, it kind of tells you, it's follow that guideline, this is what you're following, but I can't follow it. Because it doesn't, it's a county, it's.
Yeah, if it's not a public health, I don't think it would fall under you, I think it should fall under.
Right, but I know like the previous sanitary, like Frank, I know, and I think Kimberly did too, they both, I mean, obviously they had nuisances, they had hoarding cases, they had different things, and so, which should be public health.
Right.
I don't know, maybe just.
So, I mean, we've done that with zoning though, I mean, there's a time frame and there's policy and procedures in place, and then you get fined, and then you do it again, you get fined again, and so, yeah, so hopefully we can follow up that thing.
Okay, so I didn't do the wrong thing then.
Well, no, we're
I
making
mean,
an effort, so I
and-
guess again, maybe consult the gentleman,
See if there should be a separate ordinance. Okay, and then let's see, Grant County water testing, so I ran a few ads, but it's been really slow with the water testing, but the roads were so kind of mucky and everything, it was kind of a blessing. But anyway, I ran a few ads and now I've been like crazy, I'm doing like 7 to 10 water tests a day, so it consumes my entire day, which is fine. But yeah, we're back on demand, and so we've still got quite a bit of that grant money to spend down. That's doing good, and then I just kind of listed off some of our permits and other that we're at for the year, but we've already exceeded that number. And everything seems to be on track. It is definitely a little bit of a slower year so far, just with the well and septic for construction and things like that. So, but I think we had that boom for the 2020, 2021, 22, and kind of seeing it into that. And then I think I told you before, I was trying to go paperless. In my office, I purchased an iPad for field work. I got everything scanned into my database, and it's going okay. I think I could just kind of like going, as I've been going, I realized that we really benefit from some sort of a software specific to public health. You know, I know it's been talked about, you know, me maybe sharing Ruth with Lori or something like that in future for assistant, but I really feel like just having some software because, you know, I have to re-enter things in so many different places, even trying to go paperless, it's saving paper, but it's almost more time consuming in a way. And the iPad is, for me, it's not super user friendly. I kind of talked to Bjorn about it and he's like, you know, it's a learning curve, so I'm trying.
I would tend to
PC
agree, I like
computers that come in your
a lot
office,
better.
a PC based tablet would make more sense because they should be able to communicate.
Yeah, it's just different, and then I don't know. I don't know. I think it's kind of gonna be one of those things where maybe over time we can come up with something a little bit better, but I don't know if Bjorn has any comments on it.
And we just have to see what kind of software's out there, but based.
Yeah.
Web-based software. It's web-based, that's great, then you can access it anywhere.
Right, because right now, like I work off PDF, so I have, like, for example, my water testing form, it's PDF fillable, I go ahead and, you know, I fill it out and then I file it. I mean, the only step that I'm really saving myself is printing off the form, filling it out by hand and then scanning it in. Now it's just I type it in, so really all I'm doing is saving a piece of paper or two. Which I don't know. Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Well, we sure appreciate the update and, again, keep up with the water test if you can and follow up with the pumpers.
Okay, all right, I'll give you an update.
And
on
then,
my side.
I guess you and Lori and John can maybe have a knock heads together and see how we proceed with the nuisance violation or whatever it might be called.
Yeah, so I mean, that one was taken care of. I believe the guy is, you know, doing what he should do with it, but
There should be a standard.
yeah. Yeah, just an easier way to kind of determine where things go, who's responsible.
Okay,
I think we should have higher penalties for things too.
you know, I'm opposed to that.
Good.
All right,
All
yeah,
right, thank you.
thanks, Elizabeth. Okay. John, are you here with somebody or are you?
here with, I thought Lori was gonna be here.
Okay, so Luann, are you available?
Of course, you'll take it for
Yeah.
I will be
Yes, I do.
very brief. Good morning.
Morning.
Calendar this week. Tomorrow, Wednesday, March 29th at 7:30 AM is a community health needs assessment meeting on Zoom for all of you. We do that once a year. So. Thursday, March 30th, from 3 to 5:30 is the Jackson County Career and Job Fair that any of you can attend that want to. Friday, the 31st at 11 o'clock, Mike, you tentatively have an Isaac's weekly update. They don't cancel at the last minute again. And at 7 AM on Friday morning is the Macocata Leadership Team meeting for Don. It was originally scheduled for the 24th. So I will be out of the office Thursday and Friday. So I'll be monitoring my email from my phone. Monday, April 3rd at 9 AM will be the Destination Iowa update that Nathan referred to in the community room or by Zoom for all of you. And that night at 6 o'clock is the public hearing on the Macocata's citywide URP plan. So any of you can attend that as well. Our next regular meeting will be on Tuesday, April 4th at 9 AM. At 3 o'clock that afternoon, there is tentatively a green space redevelopment meeting at the library or by Zoom for any of you that want to do that. Very exciting week. The only other piece of business I have is and a reappointment. In December, we, put a public notice in the paper saying that we had a vacancy on the Miles Benefited Fire District Board, the trustees for that. It's a board that we share with Clinton. We make it as a joint appointment. So I work with the auditor Eric down there. He ran the same ad that we ran. Neither one of us got any response to it. So at this point, we're ready to reappoint James E. Jacobs for a new 3-year term as a trustee in the Miles Benefited Fire District.
If he has agreed to that.
I'll second that.
Motion and second to approve J. E. Jacobs to the Miles Benefited Fire District trustee. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
That's all I had for you.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll take a short recess. At this time, we will reconvene the meeting and we are joined by Lori Rowling and Ruth
Eldridge.
Eldridge. Oh, you, wasn't All right, and zoning administrator and her assistant. So she has some items on her agenda.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lori.
Okay, let's go ahead and start with the Ryan Rolling rezoning from A1 to M2. I know he has the map pretty close and would be right across the street to the west. So basically, this is cleanup work that is basically cleanup of cleanup. It's right here.
Mhm.
We rezoned that one
Mhm.
last fall, picking that one up now. We didn't catch it until, it was office initiated because we found errors in the zoning class when he was gonna get a zoning permit. And so it was time to clean it up. We realized we left out that little snit of a piece after we sent out the information for public notices in November. So we just combined this with, our commission meeting in March. And just asking if you guys would set a public hearing date for that. And my recommendation is April 18th, because that would give us the 10 and 20 for notifications for the public notices.
So that's only what to work.
A1 to M2. It'll match the property that adjoins to the south,
So there's nothing to do with the property to the west there yet.
being to the east,
Oh, to the west.
to the west. Oh, I don't know anything about that property.
Well, it's Rollins. Not where the arrow is. Now go west. There. All that all the way over to.
No, that doesn't have anything to do with that.
Okay,
And-
well, maybe that's all one parcel there. I might be seeing part of
And
Hudson Road there,
actually,
yeah.
this is Express.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I was thinking Ryan only had two, but those are the only two used as
Yeah.
the industrial. If you had more.
And the pleasure of the board,
Make that motion to
So it's public hearing.
set the public hearing.
do we have the date and the time?
April 18th, and I threw
10 a.m.
10 a.m. on it, so it works.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the public hearing date for April 18th at 10 a.m. for proposed ordinance for the Ryan Rolling rezoning. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Okay, so the next that we have up is the the resolution for the preliminary plat for the Alden subdivision, which is a major subdivision in Jackson County. The commission, okay, the subdivisions in section 36 of 87-4, which is Tatumore. It has been reviewed and approved by the zoning commission at a public hearing. And they recommended approval of the subdivision with the stipulation and condition that the Jackson County Engineers Office and WHKS survey resolve any issues of drainage. And also it does meet our minimum requirements for our zoning ordinance, so if all lots are greater than 20,000 square feet. And the minimum frontage requirements are within the R1 bulk zoning. The Board of Health has no concerns with the provisions that of the wastewater treatment or water supply, since water will be coming to that general area and these lots are eligible for city water later in 2023. And also, if something, we know that's gonna happen, but she would not approve any wells for that permit, or excuse me, for those lots if something fell through. So, and then the Jackson County engineers reviewed and will issue driveway permits for lots 1 through 6, which will have egress onto 304th Street, which is an existing private road with the final plat approval. And they reviewed and stated there may be potential drainage issues and potential concern with the existing road that may need to be addressed before final planning. So, and this plat was done and signed by registered land surveyor Jeremy Lamone from WHKS Surveying. And it does meet our provisions for subdivision. But ask.
So we have Todd present. Any concerns on your part, Todd?
Other than what Lori stated.
Okay,
Well, what is
I
it?
understand the fact that I hear to Street Talk that the drainage or something, is there a drainage issue?
Yes, James looked at the stormwater drainage, basically. The CFS is gonna be generated from the new site development versus the pre-developed site. And then all of that flows to, is it 8-inch? 8-inch culvert that,
Actually, it's not even a culvert. It's a tube that's tied into 3 other drainage things coming out of Dressler.
yeah, so it's a culvert, but it's a long culvert, basically. That, and there's also drainage that comes from the north that dumps into this, and then it dumps to the river. That's a concern, that pipe would be too small for the CFS that's coming to it. And then the other issue, did you talk about the access issues?
Well,
we're not-
actually, right now, we know that for the final planning, we need to address the drainage, and we also want to talk about that street for final planning. But that's why we're having the work session later to talk about issues that would affect final planning.
So you're asking for approval of the preliminary planning before we talk about the road issues? Is that what you're saying? Okay,
But that would be something that's addressed at the final planning and not at a preliminary as a rule, is my understanding.
okay.
Or something that can be discussed at final planning or for final planning. But if you want to
I'm
bring this,
perfectly fine with
back?
the preliminary, my personal opinion, I'm perfectly fine with the preliminary. These lots have been there or basically planned for the last 20 years or better, if I remember correctly. There's really no different than across the street from them where it's much more congested. And the same type of water flow going toward the river. I would certainly think that the drainage needs to be addressed, and I would certainly think that the developer would go along with that.
he hasn't expressed any problems with doing what he needs to do to make it right.
Not. And as far as the road situation, we can discuss that in the work session if that's the case.
And the engineer has, addressed his concerns in the resolution as well as the commission did, which matches your concerns with drainage.
So then we just need a approval of this.
Preliminary.
Yes, please.
I'll make that.
I will second.
A motion second to approve the preliminary design of the Muddy River LLC subdivision plat as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.
And next, well, just so you guys know, we have cases, which might be a county record, going to the Board of Adjustment in April. So, just throwing that out there, there's some movers and shakers out there asking for, it's a combination between variances for setbacks, which a variance is usually greater than 50%. That's why they're asking for the variance versus special exception. We do have a couple special exceptions in there for setbacks, which is a ask of less than 50% of the setback. So if the setback say 40 feet, they're only asking for to be 30. Yeah, they only need 10 feet for their adjustments, so they're still gonna be 30 feet away. So and then some of them are home industry. And then another one is special use ag for an ag service entity. And one is a cleanup of a miscommunication between a property owner and a zoning administrator.
Okay, so I would say get us some information on each one personally, and we will review and we'll address them as they come.
Oh, but that's the Board of Adjustment.
They're going to.
Yeah,
Board of
They're going to the
Adjustment
Board of
first.
Adjustment.
It's just up.
And
This is just,
after they get to the Board of Adjustment, we'll address them as they see. You're right, when it comes back to us, right?
it doesn't come back to you.
Okay,
That's the commission stuff that comes back to you. So unless somebody wants to take it to court, then it comes to you.
perfectly fine.
Okay. And Ned and I took a little tour last Friday. And I got to show her some of the finer long tour. It was the 3-hour tour. And just showed her some of the finer points of Jackson County and some of the not so finer points of Jackson County. And I only printed out one of these just because I hate wasting. This is probably the best picture. This is down in Green Island. I did want to address Green Island in bulk. I wanted to address Green Island in bulk, just because I have the hardest time doing this knee-jerk reaction on one person when you have several other places out there that are close to the same issue. But this has been complained on. Sheriff's Office is working with it. There's an active complaint that the DNR is working with for solid waste. And yeah, there's an active complaint and they had until April 1st to clean it up. But my understanding is that I do need to be following up on this and moving forward, but I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it and that I had your blessing to move forward on sending the notice. Well, actually, I'll probably have it served by the sheriff's office because we know it'll get to them that way instead of doing wasting time and doing certified mailing, even though it is more expensive. But anyway, I just wanted to see that I had your blessing to move forward on that. Or any concerns?
Do you have it on the agenda for us to approve? Or did
Is
it
it, is it something that has to be?
No, I
voted
think
on?
that's your job.
Okay,
I think you have my approval.
I didn't think it needed to be voted on,
No,
but I thought it was one of those, I just kind of needed a, yeah, go ahead.
you're
and do your
looking for a
job.
head shake? Yeah.
Okay, got it. And another one that just cropped up, kind of similar. I sent you guys the letter on that in your email packet. Was Jimmy Johnson out in Miles? Yep, I have that there too, and I had the letter that Elizabeth had sent to me. I think it was the letter that I had
Real
included.
close to the hilltop, or is that further south?
This is actually on Highway 64, so it's not even
So
on the
it's
same
down
highway.
there, okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna be east of Miles on the south side of the road.
Okay.
So my understanding from Elizabeth is that this property transferred in February of 2001. And they did a time of transfer waiver. Basically regarding the septic. So when this transferred, they're like, hey, this house is no good, it's gonna be torn down, so we shouldn't have to upgrade our septic. So the health administrator, Kimberly, that was here in 2001, did a time of transfer demolition statement. that the current owner, Mr. Johnson, agreed to. He came in and talked to Elizabeth last year because he didn't get the building down. And now there hasn't been any action on it yet. And today's the 28th of February. That's the time she gave him. He has been in communication with us yesterday, and he has had somebody out there to inspect it to confirm there is no asbestos, or has tested to see what they have to do before they can remove it. And just so that you guys know, it is illegal to knock down a building and burn it in place. It is illegal to knock down a building, burn it and knock it into the basement, burn it, or even just cover it up. So he is actually legally required to haul this off to be disposed of at the transfer station or in some other legal form. He is asking for an extension. And I says I can see if the board would grant him a 30-day extension. And he is actually asking for a minimum of 60, but preferably a 90-day extension to remove this. Right. He didn't understand that he had to get it down.
So I heard you mention 2001,
Yes, sir.
Kimberly?
Yes, sir.
That's not possible, I don't think.
It was done in 20.
Oh, what did I say? Oh,
I
I'm
see
sorry.
2021 on the bottom there.
2021. I didn't say
Okay,
2001.
I just missed that. I thought, well, that's.
Those little mini strokes are getting me every time. No, 2021.
Okay,
Excuse me.
so-
I misspoke.
And I can probably. Have you talked to James personally?
Oh, yeah.
And I think he's an upstanding citizen as far as not understanding maybe his responsibilities, and another 60 or 90 days probably not gonna make that much difference to me if he's going to remove it.
That's his.
What, if he said 2 months, what guarantees he removes it in another 60 days?
Can we
If we're
abate?
gonna, I ain't opposed to an extension, but I want teeth at the end of it if it doesn't happen.
Okay,
So can we abate them?
yeah.
There's another process. before we abate.
And do we,
And then that adds days on. to it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it adds more days, add the court date, adds cost to us. But I agree. We need to be firm, some way somehow, whether it's a 60-day or 90-day extension. And just so you know, he is a farmer and he's hoping to be in the field soon. And
So that gives April, May, and June, yeah, that's.
That takes them months out. He ain't gonna do anything then.
yeah,
Then you're gonna be having
But-
hay season.
yeah, I know. But I think is it reasonable? He is showing effort at this point. Which is the first effort we've seen.
In 2 years,
Yes, sir.
except for the extension he asked for last year. So.
Which his effort is showing he's asking for another.
Because he
But
said
now
he-
he's actually.
So the original-
He sees that this has to happen.
The
He's now-
original was for the septic system.
That's why, and that's what I put in front of you guys. He, basically the dwelling's not occupied and the septic is not gonna be required. Since the dwelling's
But
not
it's still
occupied, it
going
is
to
to be
demolish.
removed.
Location of the property and shall demolish
Mhm. That's what he,
the dwelling.
oh, yeah, and you guys have a copy of my notes at the bottom. Sorry for the,
So that would be February, that'd be 1 year, that's not 2 then.
but it's been.
Yeah, but he
it's been-
started off in
Yeah.
February,
Right.
Yeah, so
the
February
year
of
before.
21 went to 22, and then 22, then he asked for 23. But this was the original one, and the letter that I emailed you guys from Elizabeth, that was the extension of this.
What did he call it?
When,
What was his first phone call?
his first phone call was actually to Elizabeth, after February, it was actually probably the first week of March of this year, probably about a week and a half after he would have gotten
her letter.
Right.
And
So my
But-
guess is that when this was originally done, there was no follow-up.
that would be my guess. And then,
That's why Donnie it probably lapsed 2 years to the fact that
well, actually
It wasn't
Elizabeth did
pushed.
follow up, excuse me, let's just make that clear. She did follow up. She was out there on the 28th of February of this year and actually last year in 22. She made note that it had not been torn down, and that's when she issued him the 1-year extension.
in February, yeah, that's what it says here.
Yeah, so yeah, there was follow-up by the health department.
Yeah, but from 21, the first year, I would guess it
So
was.
21 to 22, he was given that year to get it down.
Yeah, so
Right.
she showed up at the end
22, it
of
didn't
February
happen.
22 and he didn't do anything, so
So
she
she
gave
gave
him
him
1
another
year.
year, so she
For
showed up
February
now the
or
end of
later.
23 and still nothing. And flipped it to you because
Yeah, and her letter basically said, hey, this is out of my hands right now. I'm turning over the zoning
for a
for
nuisance.
a nuisance.
Has he indicated how he wants to dispose of the property?
Yes, he's, now he's finding he might be able to. There's some confusion, and I know I've been very clear. He can dismantle it. People can take the wood out of it. And now he's like, well, you haven't given me the go-ahead for someone to take stuff out of it. It's like, yeah, that's never been an issue to
Anybody
to
can take
part it-
stuff out.
part it out.
Well, to salvage if there's.
Right, but he does know he's not allowed to burn, and then he's not allowed to bury. And he's got a excavator ready to go, load it up and take it to the transfer station and properly dispose of it.
He ain't doing it himself, is he? Has he hired somebody?
It sounds like he's hiring somebody to
I
do it.
would like to see like signed paperwork or whatever to make sure it happens, because right now, the only reason there's communication is because of the fact that he's been receiving a notice. He's at the end of his extension,
Mhm.
and because it's being referred to you for, I would say, more teeth, as being a nuisance property. I mean, it says right in this agreement right here, the system serving this property is not, the septic or sewage disposal system is not required, and the dwelling is not occupied and is removed.
Absolutely.
So in there, it's, he can't say, well, I didn't know I had to take it out. It's in the initial agreement, is removed.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So the communications we're having now, and anybody correct me if I'm wrong, but it's all because
He just didn't do it.
he's at the end of his time,
Well-
he's begging for more time.
And now that we're not playing nice because now we're making him do it in 30 days. He doesn't have time to do it. I know, it just, I have a lot
I
of
make a
conversations.
motion for 30-day removal.
And what happens if you don't? That's my question. I'm for your motion, but I wanna know what happens if you don't, because there has to be some.
Okay,
And whether
question
that's,
for our
or-
attorney, can we, at that point,
where are we at? Is there anything, because
could,
I don't think that's enough time, but that's me.
I don't either, but he's also been given 2 years, so
Well, now that we're pressing the issue, we're not gonna give them 2 years. We're gonna give them either 2 months or 3 months, 1 month, 2 months or 3 months. So
and he's
then,
a farmer and you're getting more into the crops the longer you give him. But if he's hiring it done, okay, fine, by April 29th.
Perhaps, if the extension is given again, a follow-up letter advising them that if the matter, if it isn't abated, then it will be turned over, for filing of a nuisance violation.
is there timeframes for nuisance violations as far as if you file it?
What's he given
Okay,
them?
we got 30 days, and
There's
after
nothing.
that, there's municipal infraction.
There is, it starts another time,
That's kind of why I wanted to do
What?
the 30 days, so we're not looking at this next fall yet.
seems reasonable. I mean, the ground's firm enough one way or another to hold it.
By the end of April, you should be able to get it done, and if he's hiring it,
And
He's got
that's
nothing
the
to do
way, that's the way he made it sound, but now he's hiring it, but most people have jobs. And he's hiring it out, but he says he's getting a digger there, but then again, he's having trouble getting people there because they're already booked out.
How much
So-
time does he need, Lori? you think?
he has a digger there.
I know, it
Then
sounded like.
people are
you said
gonna
he-
want their equipment.
Yeah, I know.
That was my understanding that he had a digger there. I don't think the understanding was that he was getting a digger there.
He's asking for 60 or 90.
I mean,
You don't know whose it is, do you?
I don't. I mean, and I could, reach back out.
You're
to him.
talking about a track holder, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know the proper names. I have a 6-year-old grandchild that does. It's a girl.
well, I don't wanna be like a complete. No, I don't wanna be completely hard nosed with it or whatever. If he comes in and I don't wanna say, yeah, we'll give you an extension and 90 days later, we're sitting here having the same conversation. I want what ifs. If you don't, I want signed contracts. If he's hiring the job done, they're gonna wanna come in and do it and be done. And having a house removed, from what I've seen, takes about a day, 2 days at max. They're in, they're out of there. So to say it can't be done in 30 or 60 days, especially when, if he's hiring a piece of equipment and trying to do it himself, I want to. It's hard to say that you need a lot more time because you've had 2 years. And you can't say I didn't know I had to take it down. It's in the original agreement, is removed.
He's just been a little fluid.
Pretty sure, so he could be a great guy and everything.
Oh.
but, How much leeway do we get?
Right.
You've been in both of these conversations, or I don't know if it's come to.
Well, we were in one for 30 years, so that one took a little more than we had time for, but. Again, I'm sure he's busy, but it's been that way for more than 2 years before he had it. So it wasn't addressed, and now if we're pursuing it to the fact right now, something's gonna be done.
Right.
Whether it's a month or 3 months, I don't see a lot of difference.
And the
That's just me.
only reason it's being addressed is because he didn't want to do the time of transfer for the septic and said he was gonna tear it down. Otherwise, it still might not even be on our radar.
Sure,
I mean,
if
'cause
she would have caught that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they didn't, they
Well,
didn't.
then,
It's a time
that
of
would.
transfer
the-
legal thing, in the realty world.
Right, so then the whole thing would come back to you if she didn't pursue that time of transfer option, then it would come back to you, somebody filed a nuisance, then we would start the process over again.
But this is here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll try to abide by whatever you guys tell me. If you tell me 60, 90, 30.
So I have a motion on the table. I don't know if there was ever a second.
I will motion that we give him 60 days.
Okay, so there was not a second to that, so that motion dropped to the floor, correct?
Guys, for right in a second. I motion we give him 60 days, but he must provide either documentation that it has been removed. Or he has signed contracts that the work will be done. And if not, I want it turned over for legal. To start legal proceedings.
Okay, so 60 days, but if he has a contract that says that
That's
the
gonna
worker
extend
can't
it
get
out.
there till July 15th? Is that what you're saying
Yeah.
with the
I
contract?
want signed contracts that it will be done.
Okay,
Well, then you should put maybe a time frame on that. Can we say, the time, if he has a signed contract to be done by 90 days?
Yeah.
You got 60
Yeah.
days to.
60 days to either have it done or have a signed contract, all of which regardless needs to be gone in 90.
90.
The contract needs to be done in 90.
okay.
I have a motion and a second to approve,
60-day extension.
yeah, as presented.
Did you get it?
Proceed
Yeah, I
as,
do.
proceed
So-
as presented.
He has 60 days to have it completed or with a contract stating that the work will be completed within 90 days.
There will be
Sent back to
extensions
you.
that will be turned over.
Okay, and no more extensions.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, we'll be going to the. Proceed with the zoning administrator and the county attorney to,
All those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay? Motion carried.
I'm gonna just throw up a question real quick about this. Is this something I can do with a letter or should I go through the service on this, John? Is it-
Well, if you want to have proof, then,
You better send a certified letter.
Yeah.
I would do, critical delivery,
Somebody, you said certified
well, restricted delivery.
restriction.
Okay.
Yeah, go by John.
John, you wanna throw your signature block on the bottom of that letter too? Will that help it?
Listen, it may, I think the board's actions consistent with our comprehensive plan of, preserving county soil, with health and subjects. So I like the idea of setting the timeline in there, for action. That way, the county resident has notice, has an opportunity to be nuisance and if this happens, then we do our duty. I can certainly do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other business for the board, Lori? Other than our work session?
Not from this department.
Okay. Any other reports from commissions or boards? I sat in briefly on the Irish board. I jumped off after the wrestler edition, but I guess
I see that.
that's just an update on that was that they have
They
all
gave
but
us
20,
sheet out.
70, 20, all but 28 of the user agreement signed. I didn't get that one. I would like a copy of that actually.
I have to ask them for it.
Okay. I might be able to help you out. So that was a positive note. I think that they
Yeah,
realized
they were moving forward. They're still working
they're
with
trickling
the
in.
USDA, yeah. On moving forward with this, so.
Do they got for bids in April?
I think that's what,
I heard
Yeah.
bids in April and then, to award the bids in May.
Well, it's kind of completed by September, November.
yeah. So they're moving forward. They're trying to get all their USDA stuff
We got all the easement signs. We got that.
taken care of. Going forward, early childhood, I met with them yesterday, they, their biggest issues they're running into is staffing for their early childhood centers. Like the Head Starts and pre-Head Starts. They're having centers closed, like Clinton closed just this month, their Head Start program because they have no staffing for it. So these kids are having to be either not going to a Head Start or going to staying at home. Or paying for preschool type of care. They did want us to kind of mention, prevent child abuse is hosting a soup supper going on this Thursday. They're having a guest speaker, Karen Smith. Who is from the Solon area that I'm saying is a really good speaker about child abuse, I believe. And Glenn Bopes will also be there to kind of answer any questions. That's at the Lutheran Church this Thursday at 5 o'clock, speaker at 6:15. That's been a big thing in there. They sent out their contracts, they're due back for all of their agencies that they work with. They're due back with by the 17th, I believe. I'll be going through them.
Coming up on the 30th, I know JCA has their job fair. So. Yes, it's Thursday. Plan to attend if you can, take a look, see what they're doing, pass the information around.
I'm not looking for a job.
But there's a lot of availability out there, if people are looking.
Sure is. And we appreciate their efforts with that ongoing. I guess we all seen that, well, I don't know if we all seen it or not, but I drove by again this morning and getting more walls set anyway. Had a dream last night about them walls. So that's progress. Hopefully that works out. I know there's some things you have to address and keep addressing as construction goes on, so.
Keep it moving.
Anything else before the board this morning?
Motion adjourned.
Second that.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, opposed nay. Motion carried.